Hey there, guys. Board Bob here, and we are back with Factorio Space Exploration Lazy Bastard. So, in the last episode, I started to surround the map and extend our wall out past our pollution cloud, and I have finished doing that. We are all the way around. Died a couple of times, that's life. So after having done that, as you can see, these are big areas that still need a lot of biters cleared, this, that, and the other. But we were mainly getting hit over here. So what I did is I worked my way along, and I cleared an area, and I built a wall. And I cleared an area, and I built a wall, and I cleared an area, and built a wall. I'm going to leave the inner walls up for now, and I'm going to leave these separation walls up for now. I know it's a lot of lasers. We will use them, but I want to leave them there because if I could start getting hit somewhere, then I know somewhere in that section I've missed a biter, and they've reestablished that area, and I can go clean that area out. Once it's been a little bit, I can come in here and I can take out the separation walls, I can take out the interior walls, and know that I'm safe. But I think we are well past our pollution cloud. Now, the other thing that has helped is right now we're kind of in an idle state. We're not doing any research, what have you. We were building walls, we were building lasers, so things have kind of wound down. So one of the things that I did, and let's click on this here, is I tried to balance out my power plants a little bit better. And the way I did that is I went through and I turned off some of my plants and turned on some of my plants, etc., etc. Now, one of the things that I have done, actually, there's a couple of things I've done. Like I say, I kind of backed down the amount of steam power plants. I added one more turbine here. I'm producing enough that it's kind of right on that edge of a usable turbine, not usable turbine, just to see what would happen. And I'm losing the steam here, so if I'm going to take that back out. We'll see this one turn back on. That is right about where we're at. We've got these tanks that are storing the extra steam, but once they're full, they're full. I was kind of experimenting around with how much I could get out of this. It's the way it is, because like I said, these reactors, they're going to use fuel whether you are got a load on the turbines or not. These are going to use fuel at a constant rate. So if I had zero load, they'd still be using the same amount of fuel as if I had, max load. So might as well put these at maximum and get as much out of them as possible. So what that meant was to go through and slowly creep this down to the amount where I had the minimum number of steam generators going. Now right now my accumulator charge is recharging. We've been firing some lasers, and that's low, but there's something else that we did, and this is what I'm going to show you. I want you guys to see this. What I used is this item right here. It's called power switch, and you basically can put that in. And do I have any copper cable? Don't have any copper cable. Of course I don't have any copper cable, because why would I? Want to show you something. Let me run over here and grab some copper cable. If we weren't playing Lazy Bastard, I'd just craft it in hand, but we're playing Lazy Bastard. I gotta go get some. Luckily it's on the bus. We'll just come and grab some. That's plenty. We only really need one. Well, we need three, I think, actually. Not really just one, but three. So what this does, if I take my copper cable and I shift click on a pole, it disconnects that pole, right? It'll disconnect the wires from that pole. So we're going to click and click to put that wire back. But rather than putting this wire back here, where did it hit? All right, it's hit up here on my line. I'm gonna have to go fix that shortly. All right, so now let's say though that I want to put a switch in here because for one reason or another I want to isolate a part of the factory that I can go ahead and turn it on and off. So if I go there to there, I've now put this switch in, and you can't rotate these switches, unfortunately. I wish you could because then it would look better. So it's turned off. Now it's turned on. This is reconnected. That's basically all the switch does. But you can put it in your logic network. Now let's go up here because it broke those lines. We're going to have to repair those lines real quick, and we'll get back to what I was showing you. But like I say, there is a way to control those lines in your logic network, and you can write off of the power grid and see what the charge on your accumulators are, what have you, and you can open and close those switches if your accumulators are starting to get low and you need the extra oomph in your system to charge them. I'm going down here because we need fast belts, because that is what was on those lines. I want to grab some belts. I want to grab some splitters, what have you, in case we need them for this repair. So belts, belts, splitters, belts, belts, splitters. We have poles. Let's get up here and fix this before we end up starved of resources. So it is a way of having more control over your plant, because you don't want to have steam engines and what have you running that you don't need. It's more pollution, it's using up more resources, and if they're only at a partial load, because what this system does in Factorio is it balances the load between all the power plants. Well, like I said, we want that nuclear plant maxed out on load. We want it slammed with every bit of load we can put on it, just for efficiency reasons. But we don't want to have to keep turning on, turning off, turning on, turning off the rest of our plants just to be able to keep that going. Pretty sure that was up here, wasn't it? That damage occurred. Yeah, it's right there. Okay. So we want a way to be able to do that without having to run back and forth. Or in the case of switches, now one nice thing about switches, you can actually do them on the overview map. You can pull up your map and you can operate those switches on the map, which is really nice. But you're still having to go into the map, and you're still having to knob dick with it manually. And you're having to, open those switches and close those switches and open those switches and close it. You don't want to have to do that. The whole point of this is to automate things, to make your life easier, not to make your life a turn the light switch on and off sim. Right? So let's go back down here, and what I'm going to show you is something called an SR latch. And what an SR latch is, it's a bistable logic latch. And what I mean by bistable, it has two states that are both stable states, either 1 or 0, right? And you can, and it's RS stands for set, or SR stands for set and reset. So you set it one way, it'll stay there. You reset it the other way, it'll stay there until you change the state with an input. So you can use that to open and close these switches and set up when they're going to be open, when they're going to be on, when they're going to be off, and it'll stay in that state as long as that condition exists. And then when it changes, the switch will change as well. So let's go on over here. And the reason I'm doing it over here is because I've got it on all the other ones. This is the last one I have to set up. And I just wanted to go ahead and show you guys how this works. So what I figured out is that with our idle power plant, right, now we're going down a little bit in accumulator right now, but I can shut down all of these guys. Now they've just kicked on because I'm getting low on my accumulators, but I can shut those down and I can shut these down and they won't operate at all. Now this one's disconnected right now because I was using it to experiment, so it's not going to run at all. I have to go back and put the wire in there. I forgot to do it. But I can also have a switch down here on my accumulators, and I'll show you. This is map. We go into map. We go over here to our accumulators. I can click on this on the map. I can turn that off, or I can turn it on. Right? So I have, it gives me some control remotely. But what I figured out is under normal circumstances, the only thing I need is half of this power plant. A little more than half of this power plant. It bobbles back and forth a little bit depending on what production's going on, what's firing up, what have you. But, like I say, I only want a minimum amount of engines running at a time, or it's going to bring them online and it's going to balance it out. So what I can do is I can take an accumulator, and I can put this accumulator anywhere that is on our common line, and it's going to be the same level as all of these accumulators, right? All the accumulators on the line are at the same level. I don't care how big your power plant is. If they're all on the same system, they're all at the same level. That's just the way they work in this game. I can go into this, right, and I can measure that. If I take a wire, right, I can put down a pole, and I want it separate from everything else, just so I can show you. All right, and I can take either a red wire or a green wire, and I can go from here to this pole. Now this is going to output a signal, and I can tell it what to set the signal to. I can pick any symbol, I can pick any letter, whatever. A is good. And it will express this output as a percentage of charge. So right now we're at less than 10%, less than 25% charge. So if I look here, is it completely out? Yeah. So now you see I have a 7% charge, 8% charge, 9% charge. This will give you, it'll express it as a number from 1 to 100. Okay? I can use that to my advantage. What I can do is I can take a decider combinator, right? And I'm going to put a decider combinator down, and these have to be, powered. So they have to be somewhere that's connected to the power grid. They have to have some kind of power to them. So I'm going to put it right here, okay? And I'm going to take an arithmetic combinator, and I'm going to put that down as well. And we're going to do a little bit of magic with them. And then I'm going to put down a switch. Now, what I'm going to do with this switch is I'm going to hook this side of the power plant to the switch, this side of the switch back to this other power plant. I can now close this switch and bring this other half of the power plant online. But like I say, then I have to come in here and do it every single time by myself. Maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I only want to do when it's charging, when it's not charging, what have you. All right. I need a way to open and close this switch with system logic. So what I can do is if I take, and it doesn't matter which color, you just got to be consistent. I take a red wire out of my accumulator into my my decider combinator, right? In here, I'm going to tell this that a signal, right, if it's less than a certain number, in this case, let's say 10, okay, set. So when this gets down to less than 10%, it's going to output a signal 1, right? So now I'm going to take a green wire and I'm going to come out of this and into my arithmetic combinator. And I'm going to tell that, take this A input, multiply it by a number, 25, set. Okay? So that's going to take, when this gets below 10%, it's going to output a 1. Or it's going to output 10. It's going to compare that 10 to this. It's less than 10. This side's going to output 1. That 1 is going to be fed into this arithmetic combinator, and it's going to be multiplied by 25. So then the output is going to be A, right? Yeah. So now if I take that and I take it, whoops, red wire, back into here, what happens? Right? Did I do this wrong? Output A, right? 25. So I've got coming out of here into here. You know what? Let me give myself a little bit of space. Make sure I got the wires in the right places. So there. And there. All right. So out of our accumulator into our decider combinator. Decider combinator, a signal less than 10. Right? 10. Is it less than 10? Yeah, I think it's, if memory serves me right. This to there, and that's going to be A. Okay, so that's going to get A an output of 1. Right? So that 1 is going to come out of here into here. So that's A times, oh, I'm sorry, now I remember. It's minus 25. Not plus, minus 25. Okay? So, my output from this is going to be 1 times minus 25, which means 25. Then we're going to take that and put it back into our decider combinator. Now, whatever's coming in here, plus the minus 25 coming out of here, right, is going to be greater than or less than 10, right? So, as this comes out, it's going to be, you know, 10, 15, 20, 25. If it's 25 and this is 25, 25 and minus 25 is 0. If this is 35, which would be 35% of the charge, it's going to be 10 because it's going to be, you know, minus 25 plus 35 is 10. That's going to give me my output of 1, right? Or when it's less than that. So now I can take that and I can take that output and I can send it to whatever. I can send it to pumps, I can send it to, you know, whatever I want to control. We're going to send it to this switch. So now, when this is less than 10%, isn't that right? So there's that. Let me put down a pole. And where's my copper? We're going to disconnect that pole. I just want to put it on here to monitor what this output is. So that's -3, -1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So when this comes up to 10, boom, that should close. Oh, we want that. I forgot to set this. We want this to be A equals 1, right? So when this comes out of here as a 1, right? We want this to close when it turns to 1. So right now we're at 22, and now you'll see it's falling. When it gets down to 10, or down to 9 actually, because 10 is where the cutoff point is, it's going to send a signal of 1. It's going to send a signal here of 1. That 1's going to be multiplied by -25, sent back to it, and this you'll see this number jump and change to -20. There you go. See, it changed down to a negative number. Now this is closed, and this will stay closed until it comes back up above that number. So this will continue to open and close and run this plant, but only when it's necessary to run this plant. Okay, and you can play around with these numbers and set them to different levels to have it do what you want it to do. So if we go up here, and I got to put this wire back anyway, so we're going to go up here. What I have done is I have set up my other 2 power plants. One of them kicks on when the accumulators get down to 10% capacity. And the other one, the big power plant, kicks on and goes into oh shit mode when my accumulators get down to 5% capacity. And what I decided was have the small one come on, and it would be coming on if I had reconnected it. I didn't reconnect it. You see the switch is closed, but the plant's not running, and that's because I didn't connect it back. So now this one comes on when the accumulators are down to less than 10%. Okay, it comes on when they're down to less than 10%, and it opens back up when they are above 35%. Is what I've got these set up for. So that's 10 and -35, right? So at those points, this one will come on and off. That way it's only running when it's needed, and it's only producing pollution when it's needed. The big plant up here, it's a double plant. It's 2 of those plants combined. I did basically the same thing, only I set it to different numbers. So I did a couple of things. One, I put in a switch between the 2 of them so that I can separate these plants if I wanted to. This in power plant is it's basically a load tiebreaker. It ties these 2 together, and then this is actually it's not a load tiebreaker. This is technically a load tiebreaker because it ties it to the load. But anyway, it ties these 2 plants together. It's a plant breaker to separate these 2 plants. This one's going to tie out to the load. Now this one is set to different numbers. This is -35 still, but notice this is 5. When this accumulator gets down to 5%, it'll kick this big plant on, because at that point, if we ever get down to 5%, the other power plants aren't doing their job. We want to kick the monster power plant on and get it running. So you can use these SR latches to turn these power plants on and off and have less pollution. Now you can sort of do the same thing, with your nuke plant, in that you can turn the fuel insertion on and off, but it doesn't really regulate that plant, because that plant's going to run regardless. You can turn the load to it off, it's still going to run. These plants, if you turn the load off like we've done here, they're not going to run until you apply a load to them, and then they'll start running again. So it'll sit there, it won't use any coal, won't use any, steam, what have you, won't make any pollution until you need it. So, and because I have 4 power plants, the one steam plant over here is a supplement to the nuclear power. It's to take up whatever load the nuclear power plant's not providing. It's running all the time. These other 2 come on in stages. First at 10%, then at 5%. So the one may never turn on unless we get like a lot of biters come in and they hit all the lasers at once and really drain our accumulators. And you can use this same thing to control your power plants at nighttime if you're doing solar. If you're using steam backup for your solar, you don't want them running all the time. You want them to, the whole point in that particular instance with regards to these accumulators is to have the accumulators run at night and take over from the solar power to provide you electric at night. Well, what will happen if you don't have this kind of a setup? The accumulators will never turn on. These suckers will turn on when it gets dark, and you'll never use up the power in your accumulators. And you want to use that stuff first because it's clean energy, if you will. It's not making the pollution that these are making. So there you go. So I just wanted you guys to see what was there, what was available. I'm kind of debating on this one. I want to see when this turns on, and actually because of all of these added lasers, I don't think it's ever going to turn off. Because now our load is high enough that we need it all the time. And I think what's going to happen is we're going to see this number continue to go down. Now it's at minus 20 now, right? So if we go to the map and we look, I will bet you that this plant over here, where is it? Right here is running. Yeah, see? So it's running. We've added enough lasers at this point that we've got the extra load. Now this one isn't. Okay? And on the map you can tell. See, this is red, that switch is open. This is green, that switch is closed. So at this point, what's going to keep bobbling on and off is this plant right here. Alright, as our accumulators go down. So I think at this point, at least for the time being, I'm going to get rid of this right here, and I'm going to leave that switch closed and just let that whole plant run as one plant all the time because it needs it. Now, as we get solar and stuff, I may come back in and I may put in an SR latch here and break us down to one. I want to have as few steam plants running as is absolutely feasible. And right now, because of the amount of lasers, we have to have that other plant. But this will bobble back and forth now rather than staying fully charged. And I may go change my settings on my other latches to keep this closer to the max because I want to have enough available for my lasers when and if I need them. At least until we can get all this cleaned out, because every one of these walls that I've put across here has lasers. So they're all a drain on the system. I don't know what is our actual lasers. We've got 5,000 lasers, 5,500 lasers right now, right? That's our look. It's 130 megawatts. Our next highest thing is our inserters, or no, not even our inserters, our radar, which is 16 megawatts. That kind of gives you an idea of how much those lasers are using. So yeah, it's no surprise that right now we're having to run both of these power plants. Now the option would be to increase the size of our nuke plant because, you know, efficiency-wise, you can't beat it. Game efficiency wise, my understanding what is better to use is solar panels, because they do not bog down your computer system. So if you have a lower end computer system, as your factory grows bigger and bigger and bigger, it slows down your game. And my understanding, solar panels have less of an effect than than nuclear power does. So if you're going to build one of these mega bases, you're definitely not going to want steam power. And you're probably not going to want a whole lot of nuclear power. Solar panel takes space. Solar power takes space, but you know what? You've got a lot of space. You can build whole fields of it if you have to. But there it is, short little class. You just want to make sure you have your settings right when you put them into this. And I basically, what I did is I just blueprinted it so that I can just set this sucker down. And what you want to remember is, and I think this one is set up a little different. Yeah, this one's a little different. I was experimenting with the numbers. But you want to make sure that this second number, this one in this arithmetic combinator, is a negative number. Okay, so that it subtracts from this one when it goes back in. And you can play with these two numbers after that. And kind of set it up for your liking and for what works for you. But I hope that helps, guys. There's a lot more tutorials on it out there. In fact, I had to refresh my memory on it. I went back and looked at a couple of people's. It's something I used to use a lot when I was a power plant operator and working on electronic equipment. We learned all this stuff, but I haven't used it in a long time. So Factorio is going to be an opportunity for me to get back into remembering some of that process control stuff. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. We're not doing bad on our fissionable materials at this point. We're processing right along. I had to put in a couple of buffer chests because we were getting up there, which is great. We will start using this when we get to atomic bombs for making missiles and stuff too. But in the meantime, we're just going to let it keep processing. So there's that. I am going to go back to killing more biters. And so let me go down here, because I don't think I have my stuff with me. We want to get rid of the stuff that we ended up inadvertently picking up, repairing those belts, and we're going to go out and kill some biters. Let's go out and work another section of our fence, so that we have that all cleared out. And we'll do a little bit here on camera, and then the rest of it I'm going to finish up off camera. And we'll get rid of that. You know what? Let's just take this down. I'm not gonna walk all the way up there. I gotta work on power armor and getting legs, because running around places is really slow. But I'm going over here. We're gonna grab the lasers and stuff, and then we're gonna go out and kill bugs. We'll keep the coal. Get rid of this stuff. We'll put back where it belongs. All right. We'll keep the coal. We'll keep that. We'll keep that. All right. We want the lasers. We want the walls. Is that everything? We got our tank in case we need it. Where are we going to head? Well, let's see. Let's go down here and work our way this way. And like I say, we'll do a section. We'll cap that section off. We'll do a section. We'll cap that section off. Until we get all the way up and around, and we have all the biters gone. And at that point, we should be relatively safe from biters. But we can also, if we need the resources, if we start to get low on something, it's going to give us some resources that we'll have available. Meanwhile, they can just sit there, but it gives us more room to build the factory and what have you, and it gives us more resources available. So once we have these biters out of the way, next episode we will start back in on technology and back in on growing the factory, because the factory must grow. And I think the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at increasing our green circuit production, because yellow science requires blue circuits. Alright? And blue circuits require a crap ton of green circuits, in the form of green circuits and in the form of red circuits, because red circuits need some, green circuits, you know, what have you. But we cannot make our yellow science without the blue circuits. We gotta have them, which means we gotta have a metric crap ton of red circuits, or of green circuits. Where does that line go? I don't know. Weird. But I think if it comes down this way, which it looks like it does, then we'll go up to these guys. We'll come down here, do these guys first, and then we'll work our way up to those guys. These guys I don't care about. They're not bothering us. Turn it off. Lay out our lasers. Grab our health packs and turn it on. We made some of those guys mad too, huh? Cool. Because you guys are going next anyway. And I made sure that I have enough poles and enough bots and enough lasers that we should be able to get a fair bit and see, they go after the lasers for the most part, because the lasers are what's dangerous to them, not me. And I can just kind of let it fill in and stay the hell out of the way. The only thing I gotta watch out for is not stepping in the acid, or one of them directly seeing me. It got dark, but nothing to be done for it. Now, the reason that happened is because I forgot to turn off. And these nanobots, they cast farthest first and then closest, and I was standing down where the connection is, so it put the lasers up and then got around to putting up Alright. We can stop it now. We got them all. Now we pick it all back up. Got a little carried away with that one, as far as laying stuff down goes. But that's okay. I have a bit of an adage that I teach my students in class all the time. When we go out to film and stuff, because I think I've mentioned it. I teach a movie making class, and one of the things I tell students all the time is that it is better to have and not need than it is to need and not have. There's nothing worse than getting all your talent together, your actors, all your equipment, everything else, getting out to a location and realizing that you don't have something you needed. You've wasted their time, you've wasted your time, and time is money in that regard. So it is better to take everything that you may need, and then if you don't need it, well, so be it, you don't need it. But at least you had it in the off chance that you got out there and you didn't plan for something and you have an oh shit moment and suddenly you don't have what you need, and everybody is standing around with their thumbs up their asses because you can't shoot until you get whatever it is, and everybody's got to wait around, and nobody wants to play that game. And not only don't people want to play that game, you do that often enough, they're not going to play that game with you ever. And then you end up in a situation where you have no talent. You have no one willing to work with you. You have no one willing to act or to do your equipment and stuff like that. And you don't want to do that. So better to have and not need than need and not have. That's how I see it. Alright, where are we at? I think what we're going to do is we're going to get... Oh, man. Maybe we're going to go up this way. Maybe we're going to go up that way. We'll run a line up along that lake. What's that, a destroyed laser? Yeah, it's a destroyed laser. So it's kind of interesting. My my old power plant job in the Army, the unit I was in, when they picked people to be in this unit, unlike a lot, unlike a lot of your please kill these guys. Whew. Yikes, didn't expect to run into them. Good thing I actually didn't get fat fingers on the keys this time. Anyway, in my former life, as a power plant operator, the unit that I was in, like I say, was able to kind of pick and choose. Oh, we were closer to it than we thought we were. Kind of pick and choose who applied. You had to apply for the school, you had to be approved, what have you. And they tried to pick from a diverse group of people, so that they all had different backgrounds. Because we would oftentimes be out there just with a few of us, having to figure things out on the fly on our own. So the more diverse your background you have, the more ideas, the more creativity, what have you have. So they picked from a bunch of different jobs and this and that and the other. Well, it has kind of in some ways turned out that life kind of mirrors that, or what's that saying? I don't know, life mirrors fantasy, or whatever the saying is. Interestingly enough, some of the guys that I know from that time in, like for instance, Joe Mama, he was also power plant operator, what have you, like me. I don't remember what his specialty was. I think he might have been, it was either electrician or mechanic. Anyway, he, now that he's retired, has his own woodworking business. He makes awards and plaques for different services and stuff, and has a pretty good business going doing that. I'm now teaching movie making, and what is interesting is another guy that I know, who's not on YouTube and what have you, but has apparently, now that he is, retired and out and what have you, he has taken up acting. He currently apparently has a screenplay in production, which I believe he wrote and is acting in at present, which is kind of cool. So it's kind of neat to see, what these guys have all moved on to after their time in service and what have you. And it's interesting to see the diversity that comes out of that. Me, for instance, I never in a million years thought that I would be a college professor. If you'd have told me that in high school, or hell, even early on in my military career, because I went on in the military straight out of high school, I'd have told you you were nuts. There was no way I was ever going to be a professor at a college, let alone any sort of a teacher. Nothing against the profession. I just never pictured myself in that particular profession. It was not something that interested me in the least. It was not something... I didn't like school when I was in. To be honest, it bored me. So, it's interesting that I am now doing this thing that I thought, oh hell no, there's no way. So it's kind of cool watching these guys, and seeing what life has brought them over time. And not that what life has brought them, what they've brought themselves. I mean, they've all, all accomplished these things through their own hard work. And, I applaud them for that, definitely. It's pretty awesome. But it is interesting to see the changes people go through. I mean, these are people that I knew for a number of years in the military, and their lives outside the military have become, you know, vastly different. Well, I guess not in some ways in Joe Mama's case, and in some ways not. I mean, he started doing the plaque thing. He was doing it while he was in, for people that were in. You know, like a lot of businesses do when somebody leaves and stuff. You know, you it's one of the few things you can do for your soldiers. You can't, you know, necessarily promote everybody you'd like to promote or something, but you know, you build up a lot of friendships throughout your time in a unit, you know, and things like that. So it is a way of, you know, kind of building that morale to be able to, you know, do for people when they leave. So it's kind of traditional, you know, that everybody gets together and they have a going away thing and they give you a plaque and this and that and the other. Well, Joe has been building these plaques, or making these plaques for a number of years before he got out. And now that he is out, he has managed to leverage that into a full-time business for himself and his family, and he and his wife run the business together, and you know, he's kind of passing some of that stuff along to his kids, knowledge-wise and stuff, which is really cool. So, let's see. Do we... You know, some people just want to watch the world burn. Like I say, we want to make sure the trees are not impinging upon our lasers here. Yeah, we got a couple that don't have connection. We'll put in a couple of extra poles here and there. All right. And of course you can kind of form where you want this to go by setting fires and backfires. Not that it will suck in towards itself, which is the whole concept behind a backfire, is if I have a fire, I set another fire in front of it, the vacuum of the air going into the fire will pull that other fire towards it, so you'll burn out all of the fuel before it gets a chance to move across it to the next area. That's the concept of a backfire. You can't do that in this game. It doesn't take that physics into account, but I can kind of shape where this fire goes a little bit just by where I set fires first. And I'm doing this way because I just didn't want to deal with going through that forest to get to these guys. And since we don't need it, and since trees are the enemy in this game, more so than anything else sometimes, and you see they're all in here taking damage. Here comes the remainders. There we go. Alright, now it's going to be way easier for us to get in here and do what we need to do. There we go. Needed to throw down a few extra poles there at the end. But we got through it. We didn't lose a whole lot in the process. And that's why we brought a whole bunch of extras. Now, if we could just stop walking through the acid. My eyesight's not the greatest, and green on green in the middle of the woods, it's hard to see where the acid is. I think we got all of them. Alright, let's take a look where we are. I think that's a good place to build a wall. We'll come right down here. We'll take out these guys, and that'll clear off another section. So where is my walls? There they are. And I'm not worrying about being perfect on these edges, because to be honest, you don't need to be. There's plenty of coverage. I don't like blinkies, but there's plenty of coverage that these are only temporary anyway. Did we bring? Yes, we did bring cliff explosives. I just got to thinking about it. That would have sucked to not have brought those. We got one more that we can put, and then we got another base, another bunch of biters below us that we should be coming up on. Maybe we can put more than one. Yep, there they are. And this same technique that we're using with this, when it comes time for me to start really running railroads, I have schematic or blueprints that I have made in the past. I don't know if I'm going to import them or I'm just going to remake them for the sake of this version and for the sake of you guys being able to see. But I have blueprints that I use for my railroad setup that basically include walls and lasers and accumulators and everything into it. So I have solar and storage and walls for protection for my railroads, and I have all my signaling, and everything in one blueprint that I can walk into an area and say, okay, I want to go straight and plop one down, or I want to make a turn here and plop one down, and just keep going, and build and build and build. And you can if you're doing that, you can load up a train with 4 or 5 cars on a train and just keep right on building with it. You know what I mean? When you get to where you can't build any more tracks and you've run out of track, you build more and you keep driving. And you just basically let the bots do their thing. Now, I would not do that with these nanobots because they are resource expensive. But with just normal bots, by all means, man. So there we go. So there's another section done. We will probably go and do here next, and then come across here, and that'll give us that square, and then that just leaves up here. So I'm going to leave you guys with that, and I'm going to continue to march on getting these guys cleared out. We're going to clear out these bases here, cut this off here, and then clear this out here, and then that'll be all of this down here done, all of this around here done, and then I'm just going to come up and do this. And by next episode, this will all be emptied out. Let's check back on our plant, see how our plant's doing. Now these two are just closed because they're, permanently closed. But how is this doing? All right, that's turned off right now. Good. And that's turned off right now. Excellent. That's what we want. How is our... We're going up or we're going down? I don't know. We're going down, which means that'll kick on eventually and stuff anyway. Okay, cool. Alright guys, it's working the way we want it to work. I will talk at you later. Bye.